publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. We're here today with Chad McIntosh, Vice President, Asset Protection and Risk Management for Bloomingdale's, and Tom Meehan, Director, Technology and Investigations, Asset Protection for Bloomingdale's. Excuse me. As Omni retail continues to evolve, and with technology changing virtually every aspect of retail, LP problem solving is changing and being challenged along with it, with new risk and exposures being created with each new offering or service or product or event for that matter. The pressures on both the LP and solution provider communities to come up with answers and solutions to these new risks and exposures is greater now more than ever before, and it's requiring out-of-the-box innovative approaches to be successful. Today we're talking with Chad and Tom, two LP leaders, about their approach to problem solving, how they're redefining it, and how they're looking to solution providers to do the same. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Gus.
I apologize for my voice. Gentlemen, how do you look at problem solving in this new retail world? I'll open it up to Chad.
Yeah, so the customer experience and the customer expectations have changed dramatically in the last 5 years and will change even more in the next 5 years. With that change in the retail environment requires us to look at problem solving differently than we do today. We've always had some traditional tools and traditional methods that we've used and applied to solve problems or reduce shortage and improve safety in the stores. Some of that still serves us very, very well. Some of it won't in the future. We move merchandise at light speed today, in and out of our stores, around our stores, buy online, pick up in store. The transaction, the typical traditional transaction of a customer walking in, going to a point of sale, is almost invisible today. Everything is mobile. Even our POS is mobile today. So designing practices and processes around that kind of a transaction is going to be critical and for us to help deliver the profitability of the organization.
How do you approach problem solving today? I mean, how would...
Literally, I was mentoring 600 kids on Saturday here for the NRF, and in an experience, and they're all millennials. And what we found, our team is largely made up of millennials, and they collaborate much better than baby boomers do. We worked in silos all of our lives. They don't operate that way. So when there's a problem that needs to be solved with our team, it's not like the person that is assigned to that problem, it's really the entire team working together to figure out a different way of thinking and working together to fix the problem.
Like crowdsourcing.
Like crowdsourcing.
So to speak.
Yeah. So it is amazing to watch them work together and problem solve. They take a very different approach than I ever thought about. And they think differently about the transaction, about what needs to happen. And that carries over into bringing our vendor partners in when we believe we've gotten a strategy together. Is there a tool that they have that can help us with the experience and protect the merchandise?
Tom?
So I don't want to be repetitive, so the two things I'll point out there is especially with the millennials or the younger generation coming in, you don't want to stifle the innovation, you just have to help direct it, because sometimes the brainstorming sessions can go very often to the left and borderline get into the abstract where we're not actually able to do it. At the same time, you really want to talk through the problem and let that group really work through it. We have a great group, and I can tell you that some of the solutions they bring to the table are about as far-fetched and out there as you could think of, but the fact that they're throwing things up in the air and looking at it really makes a big difference. More on the beginning question, what Chad was talking about, is the thing that I would say that's really different today is, in the past we took a product and we always were, well, let's make it better. Let's change the color, let's change the size. Today you have to reinvent the product, make a new product, come up with a new solution, because as retail has changed and evolved, a lot of the things that we buy or we source, and I'll use kind of the basic concept of merchandise protection centers, hasn't evolved with us. And Chad talks about mobile POS and how quickly things move. Well, you have to really stop trying to make that different, and in the sense of a different color, and really look at it as I have to come up with a new solution to the problem.
Yeah, how do you deal with scalability?
So that's probably the thing that I talk about the most, because Chad and I will go into a room and someone say, Tom, can this be done? And the answer is, arguably with technology, just about anything can be done. And the example I'll use is, Gus, if you get me enough money and resources, we can build a rocket and we can, take our ORC guys and send them to the moon. The reality is that's not realistic. So with technology, there is a risk in, when you get into the innovation field, that it isn't scalable. So, we talk a lot about RFID. We're heavily vested in RFID. We've done things that other retailers haven't with it. But then it's, can we do that everywhere? Can we make it scalable? So when you're looking at problem solving, and I'm the biggest person, the proponent of saying, forget about thinking outside the box, think bigger than that. Think completely different than you've ever thought. When it goes back to scalability, you have to keep that in your forefront all of the time. Every time that you sit down and you have a meeting, every time you run through, and back to that group of millennials with all these great ideas, is it scalable? So great, you solved the problem, but it isn't scalable. It's not something that we can implement from a cost standpoint. It's not something you can implement from a resource standpoint. So it's...
I wanted to add to that. I'm sorry, Tom. One of the things to keep in mind about scalability, it may not be scalable today. And you don't want to take your eye off of that process, because it's going to improve with technology improvements, quite frankly. So we have an innovation lab in a store, and an outlet store on the Upper West Side here in New York. And we literally put every bell and whistle known to man and AP into the store to see how they interact with each other, and also to really take RFID, blend that together with video. We learned a lot, but it took a data scientist, somebody that we had on our staff, to really kind of pull it all together for us. That's not something that you can take to an AP manager in the field. So you want to stay with the innovation, follow it through. You want to get to the point that it's ATM simple. Nobody taught you how to use the ATM machine. That's when you can take it to the field and really make an impact on your organization.
Is that also the biggest challenge with technology? I mean, what is it? I mean, is that it?
I think one of the challenges with technology is it changes so rapidly. So what today is the latest and greatest, tomorrow will be old news. So I think when you talk about all of the things you're talking about, you have to be cautious when you're going to roll out an enterprise-wide solution, that the solution will be there, especially in an environment where your biggest competitor isn't even there yet. So if you're a solution provider, the risk isn't the guy that's sitting next to you, it's the guy that's coming 2 weeks from now. So when we're really talking about it, I think it's technology changes so rapidly that when you make an investment in time and resources, you need to make sure that this is something that's going to have a shelf life for you. And if you know the shelf life is only 12 months and you're ready for that and plan for that, that's fine. It's a matter of actually sitting there and going, okay, so what is the shelf life? Because some of the latest and greatest technologies, and this is where Chad's comment about scalability comes into play, is something that 3 years ago would be impossible, we do every day today. And it's happening so rapidly that that's really the piece that you have to watch for.
So one of the things you also have to do with shelf life is you got to match that with ROI. So it's got a 12-month shelf life and your ROI is 11 months. Is there something coming along that's going to be better for you, quite frankly, that's going to have a longer shelf life and make a greater impact?
When approaching a new problem, what is the single most important catalyst to spark solution-based innovation? What's the trigger?
So I think it's truly understanding your business. One of the things that we talked a lot about is understanding your business and really wrapping your head around the problem and what the root cause of it is. I mean, we're asset protection folks, so we want to protect the product, but a lot of times the issue of even theft has a lot more to do with how it gets into the building. So really understanding what it is, that's what sparks it. And then the other thing is, and I think this is the biggest thing today, is keeping everybody on their toes to keep pushing, to keep that spark going. Right. Never giving up and really pushing it.
What is a retailer's greatest tool in tackling a new industry challenge?
Well, it's our teams, and it's bringing a group of people together that's diverse, thinks differently, can add value to the process. Maybe they haven't seen the problem before, and that's okay, by the way, because if we saw the problem before and we had a solution, it might not be the solution that's going to work going forward. So having a different viewpoint is critical. Having an open mind in the process is also very, very critical, and being able to look at other people's viewpoints, kind of give them a counterpoint to what they're thinking, so that we can improve our process and come up with a better strategy. And then having vendor partners in the industry, and we have some absolutely great ones that will come in and not necessarily, and Tom made this point earlier, try and sell us something off of the shelf. They want to work with us to actually put together something that's going to enhance the experience for the customer, but also protect the merchandise.
Okay, so what do you look for in a solution provider?
I think
Bottom line.
I think it's a solution provider that understands that the problem is probably a lot bigger than they think. And I think we talked about it a little bit before, but I look for a solution provider that's willing to talk about the problem and not just say, I have a solution. I know your business. And we struggle with that piece of, well, I mean, I've only worked here 13 years, but if you know more than me, let's fix it. If it was that easy, we would. So really being open to discuss things and understanding that it's a partnership. So the one thing I would say about every solution provider that we work with is, yes, we're the customer. So, I would expect a little bit more, but the reality is it's a partnership. So every time that we sit down and try to solve a problem, we understand that there's a risk for you, but there's also a risk for us, and creating that ROI together and really working together. And we talk about all of our great providers because they're all good and they're all together. And I really, really believe that when we sit down, we talk about, people are like, well, what about negotiations? It's a partnership. It starts from the beginning. In today, with the evolution and things changing so quickly, they need to be flexible and nimble. I mean, we operate at an intense pace, and Chad made this comment before, and it's probably the number one comment is, what we expected 5 years ago, we wouldn't even get you in the door today. And those two things. So partnership, flexibility, I think those are really the two keys.
Chad?
Now, I would just parrot what Tom said. So it really is flexibility, being open-minded when we sit down together to try and solve a problem, and not try and force a square peg into a round hole. And that won't work for either one of us, and won't make either one of us look good.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching. And until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.